And welcome to today's Learn. We will be discussing the enterprise system for publishing your ECTDs. It's actually the first of 4 presentations we'll be taking the next few weeks to cover. Quick note, we are recording this, so if you are concerned about having anyone see your name or your question and, of course, the answer, please disconnect now and we will send you an email as soon as it is available on our website. In addition, we are going to be discussing specific methods of publishing ECTs and other submissions. And Aquila, just to be clear, Aquila does not offer any software, and any recommendations or findings that we discuss in this meeting are solely our opinion. If you need specifics, you should contact the vendor of the individual software, and they can help you with the specifics on their products. Josh Boutwell, and I founded Aquila Solutions in 2010. Since then, we've been helping a large number of companies submit ECTDs all over the world. It also helped several companies select, validate, and integrate their publishing systems to provide internal support. To review, these are the topics we're going to discuss. First, we're going to cover the 4 types of publishing methods, then discuss exactly what an enterprise system is, and for some highlights on installation and validation of these systems, as well as cost calculations and your pros and cons. For publishing methods, all publishing methods must include these items. First is, of course, your regulatory strategy. This is, every region has different requirements. So, as an example, is it a generic drug or a 505(b)(1), B2, biologic, etc. for the U.S.? The Health Canada, EU, Swissmedic all have different regulatory strategies that you'll need to keep in mind. And publishing system needs to be equipped to handle that, so all those different regions, any region that you're going to go into. You have life cycle planning. One of the issues and one of the problems that a lot of people run into with ECTD is that there's no real way to go back when you make a decision on your life cycle, as where you put documents, how you present them. And it's very important to plan ahead for the things that you expect to do with your application before you submit it, and falls under life cycle planning. Your publishing method needs to help you assess the different advantages and disadvantages of your presenting documents, as well as make sure it enforces the requirements, the EV requirements, so you don't have a technical issue with your submission. Next, there is project management. Publishing projects can range anywhere from a few hours up to thousands of hours just to publish. And they can be very large, complex projects where you're tracking hundreds and hundreds of documents with different parts of your company, different delivery dates, and making sure that overall the timeline doesn't slip. And so your publishing system needs to have some project management aspect to it. Document tracking, as I said, you've got hundreds of documents. You need to make sure you've got you're using the right document, using the correct version from the correct person, that the documents you're using have been finalized, and that the original documents are retained for future submissions. Next, we document remediation, and this is the point that most people think of when they think of publishing. This is going in, cleaning your document, applying your bookmarks and links, and breaking it up or combining it to meet granularity, all that is document work. It also can be creating the backbone and things like that. You have the QC, and this is a critical step, and a lot of companies don't spend enough time on it. It can take hundreds of hours to QC a full NDA. The system needs to be able to support your QC requirements, and may mean bringing in people who aren't normally associated with publishing to go through the documents and make sure everything works. Then finally, especially in the US and the EU, there are ways that you have to make sure that you can integrate with. Typically, this is a more manual process. There really aren't systems out there that will directly connect to the gateway and send on your behalf, but you need to be able to extract your submission in a format the gateways can accept, or burn and mail it. It all falls under number 7. So what are different types of methods? These are the general categories, and we'll be spending a training on each of these. There is the desktop system. These are for single users, typically a 1-year subscription, and they're very low-powered systems, but they need to be suitable for some small companies. SaaS, software as a service, which is also known as the cloud. That's essentially an enterprise-based system that a different company is that the vendor is maintaining for you. My personal opinion is that I've never seen an example where software as a service is a good solution. It may be a cheap solution, especially if you're a small company, but it's not a good solution. It provides services that small companies don't really need. And by the time you're a large company, you can afford, it's much more cost-effective to do an enterprise system. Then, of course, there is outsourcing, which is using an outside publishing partner. Aquila is an example of one of these partners. And finally, what we will be talking about today is enterprise system, multiple user systems that are server-based rather than desktop-based. So what do enterprise systems do? They are designed to be a self-contained system. You go to the enterprise publishing system, and it manages all your documents, creates and edits bookmarks and links, does your backbone, everything, short of actually hitting the button to submit. And in order to accomplish this is a very complicated system, and into every aspect of a company's development and regulatory and quality systems. This overall structure of the components for an enterprise publishing system. So we have different types of people. We have a publisher who is responsible for creating and maintaining individual applications and sequences. And there's a reviewer who goes in and approves or does QC work on the sequences once they've been created. So the publisher in an enterprise system typically connects to a web interface. It's essentially a web page hosted on your internal network. The server talks to a database, track tracks all the components for this system. It documents all your links, all your bookmarks, the life cycle history, all that sort of stuff. Then oftentimes, there is a document processing server. Manipulating PDF documents is very compute-intensive. The systems will often pass that off onto dedicated hardware, so it doesn't tie up the server when you're pushing a large system. This also means that most of these enterprise systems can access multiple document processing servers, so that you can, if you have a lot of submissions, consistently, you can have multiple documents processing servers, which speed up your publishing time. And then all of these, especially the database and the document processing, back to your file server. This could be as simple as just a Windows network, or it could be a full EDMS, electronic document management system, that stores all the documents and provides the reviewer with a place to go to look at the submissions. Now that the publisher, while publishing, doesn't usually directly access the file server. It's done through the publishing system. Common components are a server for actually interacting with the system, your document servers, which process your PDFs and render your documents and do all the heavy lifting for the publishing. Your which tracks everything. Your system which stores everything. And file system, it also means the EDMS. You have tools which can be integrated into the web server, but oftentimes have locally installed components for manipulating PDFs, add marks and links, etc. Or an ECD viewer will let you take your submission, all your sequences, and shows you exactly what is current in your submission. Our viewer tool, which is there to allow the reviewers to make comments on what they find in the document, in the submission, with actually being able to change the submission. Finally, the templates. And templates are for authoring documents. They oftentimes don't come with as a default component of an enterprise system, but can be purchased separately. If you have an enterprise system, I strongly recommend you, and the company offers decent templates, I recommend you purchase them. It will help your authors interact with the web server in a way that minimizes the headaches involved in actually publishing the documents, and errors that can sneak in, especially formatting and structure errors in your documents. Use templates that are designed to integrate with the publishing system. So what about installation and validation? So it's a general workflow. You need to acquire the server hardware, and your IT department will handle that. It's, again, you've got a 3-server system, of course, any desktops, laptops for your publishers, and your existing file system. So you need the 3 servers. You'll need significant IT support for the installation and validation. These complex systems, and they usually require something like an Oracle database or something like that. That is not a trivial thing to install and set up. Next, you really do need to validate these systems. Just because vendor says their system is validated That means they validated their process of writing the system. It does not mean that your installation is validated. You need to do an IQ, an OQ, PQ validation program on your installation. You validate the internal workings of the program, but you have to make sure the system works you expect it to. And the thing that seems to be skipped most frequently is training and workflow development. Enterprise systems are designed to be self-contained systems, which means you have to change your workflows to be able to use them. There's some configuration that's available, but there are limits to that. If you don't train your people on how to use the system, at the same time, integrate the workflow, actually how things are passed around, then you will end up having spent a lot of money on this publishing system and discovering that it makes your life more difficult, not easier. Now, what to expect with your validation? I have never had a validation that didn't take 6 to 12 months from the time of purchase to when it was released for full use. 6 months is if you've brought in someone who has experience with the system, is not an employee of the vendor. It needs to be a third party. It can be an internal third party that happens to have experience with that system, but it can be from the vendor. You need to use the vendor, and they will provide support, but you need someone on your side that can project for you. It is not just following the script that the vendor has created. With that, and 12 months is if you don't have that. And I've seen it go as long as 18 months. Now, going along with this, the validation package. Vendors will almost certainly either include or upsell your validation package for your system. Generally, these are very good things. If they offer that, you want to purchase it. Because they offer a validation package doesn't mean it works for you. Consider the validation package to be a rough draft and go through each and every single page and update it to match what you are doing, how you want to integrate in your system, and make sure you understand everything that's going on first. This project will require a full-time project manager. Again, 6 to 12 months, a big difference is the project manager you assign. Your project manager needs to have some sort of experience with dealing with the system you selected, and if not, with publishing or in regulatory systems in general. You will need part-time IT and validation support. Like I said, this is complex systems, and IT needs to be involved. And while project manager hopefully will have validation experience, it's in many ways a waste to dedicate a validation manager to the project when they can just provide support. Now the thing, again, workflow. The most difficult thing will be to integrate your new system with your authors. Your authors will need to change how they work, and I've never encountered an author that is eager to do that. They always push back and try to keep doing it the way they have been, and if you're lucky, they'll try to use the templates, or more than likely try to take what they've already done and just put it through anyway. You train them. And watch out for this. And this is the biggest surprise to most companies. They have to revalidate after a year. No matter how much planning you've done in your validation package, how well you've trained everyone, the system, as it's validated and installed, will not support your company as well as it could. If you leave as is, then your system will be dragging you down. What you do is, after you've gotten some good experience with the system, you are in a position to really configure it with how your company operates. So expect to budget another validation project for about a year after this initial validation is finished. Cost calculations. So consider is, of course, your purchase price, and this is the purchase price of the software. Equipment replacement costs. This can be every 3 to 5 years or so. Validation. Now, you've got your initial validation, which will take 6 to 12 months and will be the longest. That's your validation after 1 year. So this is the standard and the program are improving and changing every year, just constantly. And so you can expect to have to do a minor revalidation every 1.5 to 2 years. We'll install updates or accommodate new regions, that sort of thing. Validation, you will need validation manager support, and you will also consistently need IT support. You can usually think 0.1 to 0.2 IT managers per an ongoing basis. So this means 4 to 8 hours of IT support a week. Now, publishing systems, you need a minimum of 2 publishers. One to remediate a document, another person to QC the submission. And be publishers, not just regulatory managers, because publishers know the technical aspects of ECTD. Now, a lot of times you can do a manager level for a publisher and an associate or even coordinator level for a publisher. And it should be sufficient for most organizations. Now, again, extensive training of all authors. They want to stay with what they've been doing. You can't let them. It will not work with your new system. So I'm throwing out some numbers, and these have been our experience recently. Software costs, you can expect around $100,000. It may be as much as between $100,000 and $200,000, depending on your whether you have to buy a validation package or consulting and all that sort of stuff from the vendor. Hardware, it's about $15,000. This is for server hardware and any adjustments to your file system that you'll need to make, as the software for the hardware. The secondary software, by this I mean additional PDF tools, perhaps additional software for the servers that you want to take, that sort of thing. Your training costs, particular authors, but also your publishers and your regulatory support. And for annual costs, generally the annual maintenance is about 25% of the purchase price. So for $100,000, you're looking at $25,000. And validation costs, this includes any software costs from the vendor, as well as project management and validation costs. In fact, about an average of $20,000 a year. What are some of the pros and cons? It's a unified system, which is very nice. if you are doing most of your authoring, this will speed up your process instantly. Everyone will know where to go. There, you will have standard practices. You'll have detailed templates to pass along information and guidance for authoring your documents without having to explicitly train everyone on ECTD. You have advanced ECTD design guidelines. What you're really purchasing with an enterprise system is the experience of the vendor designing the system to enforce your proper ECTD structure and techniques to avoid technical issues. You're looking for these technical issues rather than having to have an experienced publisher look at everything. Have document security. All these enterprise systems have can lock people out from seeing documents they aren't supposed to. I've even seen one system that was so secure the publishers couldn't see the content of the documents they were publishing. They had to update the bookmarks and the links based on QC comments without ever seeing the document itself. Now, that's an extreme case, but it shows you what's possible. One is very expensive. You're working to $300,000 plus a staff of two, minimum two, to set this up. And talking about ongoing of about $45,000 to $50,000 a year plus your staff of two, and one being a manager level, so you're probably talking $150,000 in salary between the two people, plus another $45,000 to $50,000 in expense. So you're looking at $200,000 a year of people dedicated to publishing, of expenses dedicated to publishing. As I hope you've picked up, it is difficult to integrate into the company. And our system is designed to be a self-contained system with best practices into the software. And your company, the best practices across the industry may not be the best practices for your company. And that in mind, you'll need to update your work, how your company operates in order to really utilize the system. And number three, this is not something we really talked about, but because of the best practices, it can be difficult to customize the output. The system is designed to create things that are compliant, but there are ways to be compliant, and sometimes you need to create something that is that doesn't flow with what the client, with what the vendor intended, and that can be very, very difficult to do with an enterprise system compared to other systems. So, advice: validate your system. Just remember, when the FDA comes in and inspects you, they will ask to see documentation, and if there's any question, they'll ask to see the chain of control, how things were updated, and it could come down to your publishing system. Does it actually treat your documents correctly? Especially if there's been some sort of error with what you submitted, you validate your system. You have a dedicated IT department. You can't really outsource your IT department. You can't be a small company that has a friend doing the IT support, or you can't really use Gmail for the Google Drive and Dropbox and all that for your file system. You have real IT support. You have at least two publishers. One should be a manager. templates if you can. If there are templates available, use them. And generally, from a strictly economic standpoint, enterprise systems only make sense if you do at least one in application a year or have a huge number of active applications. They're fairly simple. A full 505b1, something 500,000 pages long with multiple phase 3 studies, a full non-clinical section, and some novel chemistry, would get 2,000 to 3,000 hours to publish. Just take the author documents, get your submission-ready application. And adds up, especially if you're using a partner or like the desktop and SaaS system. The other systems tend to be faster to publish with. And so that's about the point where it's break-even. If less than that, I don't really recommend an enterprise system. If you view it as a business critical thing to have an internal publishing system, consider a desktop system at that point. Now, are there any questions? Our next Aquila University will be on the public method SaaS, Software as a Service, also known as the cloud. SaaS publishing, how do you integrate the system into your organization? And, of course, what are the advantages and problems with these systems? We held November 13th at 2 p.m., and I do hope everyone will consider joining. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and please have a great week.